excited about partnering up with you guys. I'm not going to take a long time to introduce myself because I have a lot of information. I have so much information, you guys, to share. Let me just tell you a couple of things. Number one, at the end of this, what I'm talking about is in a handout that you're going to have access to. So if you want to just sit and listen and not take notes, don't worry about it. The notes are going to be available for you. Everything I say, you will be able to access when this webinar is over. So I highly recommend you sit and listen and start to think about how you can start to change your daily habits to get different results in your life around productivity and how your environment functions. Okay, we're going to get going. So, Happy New Year is the first thing I say to everybody, and even when it's not January, I start my presentation with this exact slide. Happy New Year 2013. And the key here is the happy, because the bottom line, guys, is that the new year is going to roll around every year whether we want it to or not. But what's going to make this year different than every other year? I'm most concerned with the word happy. Okay? So just think about that. So I always talk about how you may be happy about what you're doing, but are you happy about how you're doing it? And that's where I come in. I'm sort of the how-to girl. There are a lot of people out there that have finally found their passion. They love what they do. I have to assume that you guys are mostly in the medical field, and even if you're not, if you're doing what you love doing, that's half the battle. If you can figure out how to do it in a way that serves you well, that completes the happy package. So, top three New Year's resolutions. I know you all know what these are, and if I were standing in front of a live crowd and I said, okay, you guys, tell me what the top three New Year's resolutions are. You all know it's obvious. The first one is lose weight, and the next one is quit smoking, and the next one, number 3, is get organized. So I am one of 3 top New Year's resolutions, which is why this is the perfect timing to be watching this webinar. But as I always say, it's never too late to get organized. So if in fact you are someone who's out there declaring that this is going to be your year for getting organized, I have the solution for you. I talk about it's not just a New Year's resolution. What's the new solution that you're going to follow that's going to get you to where you want to be? Okay, so what do they all have in common? That means losing weight, quitting smoking, and getting organized. Well, what they all have in common are these 5 things: commitment, determination, discipline, perseverance, and the most important is the system or the process that you're going to use to change. And if you've ever lost weight before on any kind of program, or if you've ever tried quitting smoking and did it successfully, or if you've even ever gotten organized, really what it boils down to is how badly do you want it? It's the people who choose versus want that are successful. You can't just want it. You have to make the decision to choose to do something about it. And it's really, really important to get this, you guys. So I want you to think about it. If I were standing in a live crowd, which I am all the time, because I travel around the country speaking to large groups of people, and I say, how many of you out there want to lose weight? I would say 85% of the crowd raises their hand. But when I say, okay, put your hands down, now I want you to tell me how many of you are choosing to lose weight. That's a different story. So if, in fact, you want to get organized this year, you have to make the commitment that you're going to do something about it. Okay, so I ask you this. What are you tolerating in your life right now? Think about that. What are you tolerating in your life now about how your environment functions? That's what Wendy Ellen cares about. She doesn't care about what it looks like. She cares about how does your environment function. And I'm specifically talking about your workplace. So start to think about how does your workplace function? Does it function in a way that serves you well? Okay. Does your office look like this? How about this? Maybe this. I know you think it's crazy, guys, but these are live offices. These are places that I've been in. How about this? How many of you go to conferences and you collect all those bags with all the tchotchkes in them? Come back from your conference, you've already missed 4 days of work. You don't have time to go through that pile, that bag, so you just leave that bag on the floor in your office and you get right back to work. How about this? I'm bringing it home for a couple of minutes. Anybody have a garage they can't fit their car in? I always wondered about this. I've never lived anywhere where I actually had a garage, but I can't imagine that I would actually have a garage and not be able to fit my car in it. What about this? Does anybody have the proverbial electronic bin floating around their office? When I went through this bin, this drawer, with one of my clients, and these are pictures are all of clients I've worked with. This person actually owned two pieces of equipment that went to these wires, which means most of this drawer, 97% of it went in the trash. What about this? Are we ever going to run out of pens that we have to have this many pens in one drawer? Okay, and does your life resemble this? Which I know, in fact, it does, because everybody's does. So what I really want to say is this. You're not alone. We're all not alone in this. Everybody in the world is dealing with the same issue around how their environment functions and how they work and live every day. Because we have so many forms of messages coming into us at once that we don't know what to give our attention to first. So, like I said before, being organized is about how your environment functions. It's not about how it looks. It's a way of living, not a state of being. So even though I am an organized person, the difference is I live an organized life. And what that requires is action. It requires making different choices on a daily basis than you are currently doing. Just like losing weight is making different choices around the way you eat and the way you exercise and the way you sleep than what you're doing now. So I want you to think about that. Okay, does the way your environment functions serve you well? Every choice you make, or sometimes don't make, creates consequences. So in organizing, the biggest skill is keeping your head in the game. You've got to get your head. It's always the ones who are successful in changing habits that they get the mental part first. And when their physical body wants to grab for some piece of cheesecake, they get in their head, nope, that's not going to help me get to my goal. So it's always about what's in it for you. I'm very big into what's in it for you. Because if the reward for you changing these habits isn't big enough or important enough, that's when you start slipping back. Okay, so we're going to talk about the 3 simple secrets for unleashing your productivity potential in 2013. I believe that we all have the potential to be more productive. It's just a question of the choices we make from the minute we wake up to the minute we go to sleep. And the key here, you guys, is simple. If it's not simple, nobody would stick with it long enough to reap the benefits. So it has to be simple. And again, I want to keep saying this. You don't need to take notes. All these secrets are down on a piece of paper that you can get at the end. All your action steps that I'm going to ask you to do are also there. So, number 1, declutter your life. This is actually somebody's daytimer. This is what they carry around with them, which actually makes me nervous just looking at it. So, declutter your life. Clutter is the biggest distraction that you can possibly have for getting things done. So, I want to ask you this. When's the last time you got rid of? Think about when the last time you actually closed your office on a Friday, didn't see any patients, didn't do anything other than go through every single space and get rid of what you don't need. I travel around the country working in doctor's offices, all types of doctor's offices, optometrists, podiatrists, internists, you name it. And the biggest complaint is that they're growing out of their space. And the first thing I see when I do an on-site visit is I look at the space and say, the reason why you're growing out of the space is because you have so much clutter in this space, you don't even see the space that you own. So how about let's start to buy some space in the actual space you have, okay? And I always tell people, you can live above your means spatially, just like you can live above your means financially, which means you actually have more stuff than the actual physical space you live in or work in can hold. So think about that. So I want you to start thinking of the space that you work in and looking around you and seeing where you could possibly get rid of. I always tell people I'm 56 years old. And based on how healthy I think I am, and to my knowledge I am, I probably have at least another 30, 40 years left. And particularly since people are living so much longer these days. If I don't get rid of what I collected over the first 56 years, where am I possibly going to put the next 30, 40 years worth of stuff? Because it's not going to stop coming in. That's easy. The stuff comes into our life with no effort on our part. But the stuff won't go out of our life without some effort on our part. So I want you to think about what you can get rid of. I want you to think about how many times you're looking for something that you just had your hands on and you can't put your hands on right now because there's so much stuff around. Or maybe you went out and you bought a new jump drive, flash drive to use for a presentation, and you came back to your office and you put it down and literally you can't find it 20 minutes later. Or something you potentially printed off the printer and you put it down and then you put several things on top of it and now you can't find it again, so you just keep reprinting. I mean, there's a method to my madness. It's not about being perfect. It's not about anything other than having your environment function in a way that serves you well, that keeps you from having to spend wasted minutes looking for things that you can't find. So my biggest question also is, so we all know this Jerry Seinfeld episode of Decluttering Your Life. Look at that wallet. There's probably lots of people out there that have wallets like this. So you'll know that the physics of clutter. Clutter will often come into your life without any assistance on your part, but it will rarely go out of your life. Here's an instance of how clutter comes into your life. The mailman delivers something to your house every day. And most of it actually is clutter. So, clutter, you guys, this is a great definition. Clutter is nothing more than a manifestation of indecision. Think about it. Nothing more than a manifestation of indecision. So you don't decide, and you don't decide, and you don't decide, and before you know it, you got a mess of clutter. Okay? And that's one of the biggest distractions. It's why most people can't get any of their work done. So, and my main concern when it comes to clutter is what could have potentially fallen through the cracks. Think about that. Okay. You think this is bad, you should see the inside of my head. If any of you out there are people that don't write things down, your head was not meant to walk around with everything you have going on. So if in fact this is you, I want you to get in the habit of start to brain dump every day what you're carrying around in your head that you're so incredibly worried about. See, this is what I tell people when they ask me, well, tell me how your life is different because you're organized than mine is. And I would have to say that the really one clear explanation that makes me different, doesn't make me better, it just makes me different, is that when I turn the light out at night, my head turns off. That's a big difference from a lot of people out there who, when they turn the light out at night, their head turns on. And they wind up laying there for the next 30, 40 minutes, thinking about all the things they didn't do today, thinking about all the things they have to do tomorrow, hoping that they're going to remember the things they have to do tomorrow, worrying about what might have fallen through the cracks today. And when you have a system for getting control of your workload and you're organized, you can literally turn the light out at night and turn your head off and have a good night's sleep. I'm never worried about what I did or didn't do or what I need to do tomorrow. Never. Because I have a system for when I wake up in the morning and I go to the place where it is, it's going to remind me. So, action step number 1. I want you all to set a date and a time to clear out the clutter in your workspace. Okay? Whether you work out of your house, whether you work in an office, whether you are a doctor and you have your own office, whether you are the assistant to somebody in any workplace. I want you to set a time to clear out your personal workspace. And I call it the 1 bag, 2 box process. 1 trash bag for the trash, 1 box labeled recycle, and 1 box labeled keepers. Okay? Trash, you know what to do with it, goes in the garbage. Recycle can be paper or it can be anything that you're going to recycle to somebody else. It goes in a box that's called recycle. And then you're going to have left the box that's labeled keepers, all the stuff you want to keep. And once you're left with just the keepers, you can then find permanent homes for those keepers. Okay? If anyone has any questions about any of this information, I'm at wendy@wendyellen.com. And it'll be on the very last slide of this. But I'm going to put it out there now, because if you want to write down one important thing, it's my email address. I am making myself available to you for anybody that has any questions about this, wants to process something with me, has a challenge, whatever it is, wendy@wendyellen.com. Okay, so number 1 action step is to set a date and time to clear out the clutter. Number 2, this is huge, guys, get control of your daily workload. And I want you to see this picture here. It's called my Command Central. It is my system for setting up, getting control of the stuff that's going on in my life that's paper. And I tend to be more of a paper person. Even though I get most of my stuff comes into me electronically through my email, I like to touch and feel, and I work out of my office in my home. This is the drawer that I'm sitting right next to at this very minute. It's got 1 through 31 staggered files, which is the month I'm in, which is January. And then it's got January through December files behind it. And for those of you who are wondering what those orange dots are, those are the weekends. So every time the month changes, all I do is change the 2 orange dots to indicate where the weekends are in my month, and then I use the same system. Nothing changes in this drawer, you guys, except the orange dots. Okay. So, anybody have to-do lists? Look at this. Look at these to-do lists. Anybody have millions of piles? This is one client. One client. Here's one where he's now put to-do lists. This is actually a doctor. He's now put his to-do lists on the wall in his office and now on his door. He has lists everywhere. If that's not enough to stress you out, I don't know what is. So the key is, guys, I want you to set up a system that requires the least amount of effort. Remember what I said, if it were not easy, you wouldn't stick with it long enough to reap the benefits. So the key is set up a system that requires the least amount of effort. And I want to also say this. There's no system out there for getting organized that doesn't require some effort on your part. If there is, I want you to email me immediately if you know of one. Because up until now, and I've been doing this for 12 years, I don't know of a system that doesn't require any effort on your part. So let's set up one that requires the least amount of effort. Okay, so this is something that we all know. You don't need to write this down, but there are 5 incoming items that come into our life all the time. Paper, emails, voicemails, verbal requests from others. That means you're walking down the hall in your practice or your office and somebody asks you to do something. That's an incoming item. Or your own thoughts. You're sitting at a red light on your way home from work, and all of a sudden something pops into your head that you remembered you need to do. So 5 things come into your life all the time. Okay, so what I want you to start doing is responding instead of reacting. And that's what most people do. They're reacting versus responding. And responding means responding when it comes in. That's the key here, guys. Responding when it comes in. It doesn't mean you have to actually do it. It means you need to do something with it. So let's talk about this. You're going to make one of 5 choices. The first choice is let it go. If something comes into your life that you don't need, whether it's an email, whether it's a voicemail, which you know how to delete, whatever it is, whether someone hands you something, whether the mailman delivers it to you. What do we all do, guys, when the mailman comes? Most of us get the mail out of our mailbox. We take all of the mail out of our mailbox. We don't just take what we want. We take it all in our house. And if you're anything like me, you stand by your kitchen trash can and you sort it right there because most of it is junk. And then whatever you need to keep, you take. I give my husband Marty what he needs and put it in his mail slot in the kitchen. And then I take what I need and take it upstairs to my office. So when it comes to the to the physical mailbox, we all know what to do. But when it comes to the email inbox, we don't quite live that way, and I'm going to get to that in a few minutes. So the first thing is you're going to let it go. When you remove the things you no longer need, you can focus on the things that are most important. So it's actually instrumental in getting rid of the stuff you don't need immediately so that you can focus on what's left. Number 2, let it go to someone else. That's another way of saying delegate. So if you all have people in your life, in your world, in your workplace that you can delegate to, you know what you can and what you can't delegate. Get good with delegating. And one of the handouts that I'm going to make accessible to you is a really good, easy delegation checklist. How to become a better delegator. Number 3, do it now. Do it now means 2 minutes or less. So when things come into you, let's say, for instance, an email comes into you and it's Wendy Ellen. Wendy's asking you for a book that you recommended the other day when she ran into you in the grocery store and she didn't write it down and she can't remember it. If I email you and say, hey, you know what, I forgot the name of that book that you had suggested in the grocery store, you want to email that back to me and get it off your plate. Okay? I'm known as the 2 minutes or less girl. Everybody knows that if you get something to me and I can answer you in 2 minutes or less, I'm doing it. I want to get it off my plate. Hey guys, I want you to look at your life as one big volleyball game. This is Wendy's juicy tidbit number 1. I talk about my juicy tidbits all the time. This is Wendy's juicy tidbit number 1. Look at your life like it's one big volleyball game. Okay? Your work life. Your goal every day is to get as many balls out of your court as possible. That's your goal. Doesn't matter what you do for a living. Even if you're a doctor, I mean, I'd love for doctors to think that they only get to see patients all day long and that they have no other work. But the reality is, we all have work. We have work to do that's not about seeing patients. So when you sit in your computer and you get back after, at the end of the day, you sit down on your computer. Your goal is to get as many balls out of your court as possible. So I'd be looking for the 2 minutes or less things and pop them out of my court, respond, and get them out of your inbox. This way, at the end of the day, you can experience productivity. I love when I get up in the morning and I come to my office and I see how many balls I can pop out of my court every day. That means I'm pushing them into someone else's email inbox. It doesn't mean they're not going to come back to me. It just means that I'm getting them off my plate for now. And it's much easier to work that way when you have less emails staring you in the face. Okay, fourth action. The fourth step is you're going to create a further action file. That's the command central right there. That's items that you need to take further action on, that you need to keep. So if something comes into my life that I don't need to touch until next Tuesday, whatever next Tuesday's date is, that's where this piece of paper is going. I print it out, I stick it in there. You can see right here, there's a folder. That's probably a folder that says Clear Channel presentation, because on that very day, I'm doing a presentation to Clear Channel. And so if I'm doing a presentation on a certain day, I'm keeping all the presentation documents in one folder, and the folder's living in the day that I'm actually doing it. Okay? This is the best, easiest system. We all know our numbers. We all know our months. Doesn't get any easier than that. We're taking it down back to basics. This is the old-fashioned tickler system that we've been talking about for years. Okay, if anybody out there has a file that says this will get you in trouble. Current to-dos is a no-no. Because what happens is you're putting all these things in a file that says to-do, but you're not committing to doing them. And so you keep going through this pile that's in this folder and never doing anything with it. Okay, the fifth choice is a future reference file. That's an A to Z reference file. So I have a momentum reference file, which is my business, and I have a family reference file, which is my personal. In my family reference file, the files say Delta, eBay, Wendy, Marty, Blair, and Leah, my husband, myself, my 2 kids, Ruby, my dog, travel, insurance, automobile, all the things that relate to my house that I want to keep documents for, live in a file, and it's filed alphabetically. So if Marty comes home and he has a document, I say to him, you know what, that's the Edward Jones statement. It's upstairs in the file under Edward Jones. Go in there and take the last statement out and put the new statement in. Easy peasy. Okay? So again, let it go to someone else, do it now, further action, future reference. You're going to get all this in the handouts, guys, so don't worry about it. If you have no system, you're a stacker, a spreader, a stuffer, or some combination of the 3. So this is a doctor's office that I worked with a couple of years ago. This is what I came into. No rhyme or reason to everything, clutter everywhere, piles everywhere, stuff shoved everywhere. There's another picture of it, okay? Stuff everywhere. This is now what his office looks like. On the right, you can see we have an A to Z reference file with all the tabs in a row, so you can find things easily. And if you look over here, there's his command central, 1 through 31 and January through December. Everything in his office has boiled down to either 2 drawers. Here is my further action file. Here is my reference file. If I have to keep an item that I have to maybe refer to once a year, it has to have a permanent home. Everything is either in an action file or a reference file. There's nowhere else for it to be. So this is what his office winds up looking like, which is awesome. And I will tell you that when you set this system up, it is so incredibly easy to follow. You get so pumped and so jazzed once you do the initial setup that you never want to go back to living that way again. So motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going, as Jim Rohn says. So I'm hoping that right now, which is usually the case when I'm doing this workshop in front of lots of people, they immediately want to run out and they want to buy their supplies. And I have in this handout what the supplies are for this. So action step number 2. You're going to set up your command central file. Here's what you're going to do. You need to have a hanging drawer in your office or go get a hanging file box. Either will work. They actually have hanging file boxes on wheels if you want. You're going to get 3 boxes of 25 hanging folders, letter or legal size, whichever side, whatever your drawer holds. Those boxes come with the little tabs. Those are the tabs, the little tabs, that you're actually going to put the numbers and the January through December tabs on. Then You're going to also buy 3 packages of the longer clear plastic tabs. They're 3.5 inches. And because those longer tabs are going to allow you to put more words on a tab, and those tabs you're going to use to set up your A to Z reference file. And then you want to get either a label maker or a Sharpie. If you go to wendyellen.com/free-downloads, there's going to be some downloads that you can actually, some PDF files that you can print out. One of them is the Avery label template that I have for you. That actually has the 1 through 31 and the January through December files right on there. All you have to do is print it out on an Avery tab, and you're good to go. Put the numbers and the letters, the numbers and the months on a tab and set it up. Okay? wendyellen.com free-downloads. So that's action step number 2. Remember, all of this is on a handout that we'll get to you very soon. Number 3 is huge. Declutter your e-clutter. Okay? Now, guys, if we all knew what this email inbox was meant to be so many years ago, none of us would be faced with the challenge that we are right now with email. Okay? And if I'm in a group, I'd be asking you all, can anybody throw out the name of what's the word I'm looking for? But since you're not going to answer me, I'm going to tell you. This is what an email inbox is meant to be. Right there. That's what an email inbox is meant to be. And for those of you who don't know what this is called, it is called a loading dock. Guys, our email inbox is only meant to be a loading dock, which means nothing lives permanently on a loading dock. It goes in and it gets moved out. It goes in and it gets moved out. Truck pulls up to the loading dock, unloads the truck. From there, it goes to where it needs to go. So if you guys would start looking at your email inbox as a loading dock instead of a permanent place for 20,000 emails, you would not be nearly as stressed out as you are. So 4 reasons for email overload. You're unfamiliar with Outlook or whatever program you have. You don't schedule time for email processing. You're checking versus processing. You're looking for fires versus making decisions, or you have no good system for storing. So, cleaning out the email inbox, the goal is 0. I will tell you that every night before I go to bed, there are 0 emails in my inbox. Now, I might get up and go to the ladies' room and come back and there's 3 more. I can't control what comes in. So I want you to get this, guys. This is really important. We never get it all done. Okay? I've put it out there. I've said it. You never get it all done. We never get it all done. I'm in this like everybody else. I'm no different than anybody else. I have no control over what comes into my email inbox. I have control over what I do with it once it comes in. That's the key. So I want you, if you're interested in jump-starting this year, with the easiest, most important thing you can do, it is taking on the challenge of emptying your email inbox. And I want you to stay tuned because I'm getting ready to introduce something to the universe, to the world, to the nation very soon about emptying your email inbox. And if you're interested in jumping the gun and getting a little head start on what I'm going to talk about very soon, you want to do exactly what I'm going to show you now. Clean out your overloaded email inbox. So the easiest way to do this is to sort by sender. Okay? If you sit in front of your email right now and you immediately sort by sender, your computer is going to jump all these emails alphabetically. And you're going to start at the very top. And you're literally going to go through and you're going to get rid of what you don't need. Immediately, you're just going to get rid of what you don't need. Okay? Then you're going to go back. Look at this. 20,000 emails. That's how many emails are in this person's email inbox. 20,000 emails. 20,857 emails. You know, people say, is that a lot? I've seen a lot more than that. But yes, it's a lot. It's enormous. Can you imagine? 20,000 emails in your inbox. That is the same word, only it's electronic clutter as opposed to physical clutter. That is piles and piles and piles and piles of paper in your office. Call it what you want. It's clutter. So what I worry about, you guys, is not the fact that it says the number there. What I worry about is what's falling through the cracks in these 246 unread emails. And even if they were all read, I care about what could have potentially fallen through the cracks. Okay? This is what happens when you have no emails in your inbox. Now, it's not going to stay at zero for long. And if you wind up taking 20,000 emails down to 1,000, you've done an enormous job. I give credit everywhere credit's due. If somebody has 5,000 emails in their inbox and they can get it down to under 500, that is huge. Huge. I throw the challenge out that anybody that's interested in getting their email inbox down to zero between now and the end of January, that's an amazing start. That is an amazing triumphant success. And if you do it, I want to know about it. Wendy@wendyellen.com. I want to know about it if, in fact, this is what you do. So, staying at zero, what do? You make one of the same 5 decisions with your email that you do with your physical. So, something comes into you, you're going to let it go. How do you do that in the email? You delete it. If something comes into you and you need to let it go to somebody else, how do you delegate? You forward. Do it now is exactly the same way. Further action file, you can use your task timeline feature if you have Outlook, or you can use awaiting your response, or future reference file. You can put it in a folder in your inbox, or you can save it to My Docs. So here's something that's really cool, you guys. One of the things I tell my clients and I tell my audience is that if you set up a folder that looks like this, if you look over here, it says under the word inbox, it says _ waiting for response. If you set that file up, every time something comes into your email inbox that you have to take action on, that you don't want to take action on now, but you are afraid it's going to fall through the cracks, drag that email into waiting for response. Just drag it right in there. Every day I come in and I go right to my waiting, I call it now waiting to respond. It doesn't matter, waiting for response. There's a million things you can call it. What it is, it's a pending file that you have to work at it. It's your action items. You can have it called waiting for action. You can have it called action items, follow-up file, whatever you want to call it. But what it is, it's a place for you to drag those emails that you have to attend to that you're not going to do right now. So if I have 20 emails in my inbox and I'm going to go in there right now and process, here's what's going to happen. The first one's going to come in, it's junk, I get rid of it. The second one's going to come in, it's a 2 minutes or less, I'm going to respond and delete. The third and the fourth and the fifth are things I have to do, but I'm not going to do them now because they take more than 2 minutes. I'm going to drag them into waiting to respond. The next one is something that I might want to save, but I don't need it now. I'm going to drag it into my into the folder that I've named Wendy Ellen. Let's say you want to start getting emails from me. You want to sign up for my blog and you want to hear from me once a month because you want to read them. You might not want to read me when you get me, but you don't want to get rid of me. Drag me into a folder that says Wendy Ellen. And when you get a couple of minutes, decide you're going to click on Wendy Ellen and see what I have to say. You don't have to have it in your email inbox. It just needs to be available to you. So, action step number 3. I want you to commit to cleaning out your email inbox. The first thing you're going to do is sort by sender. You're going to delete all the emails through A to Z that you don't need. Then you're going to go back through the alphabet, and you're going to set up people files or subjects. Maybe you want to just create a marketing file, and everything that's relating to marketing your business, or patient files, whatever you want to do. Insurance, HR, doesn't matter. Set up files so that when emails come into you that you need to keep, that you might want to refer to, just like the A to Z reference file in your drawer, you're going to create an A to Z reference file in your inbox. Drag those emails to the people files or the subject files when they come in. Then you're going to set up an _ waiting to respond folder. Those are for your follow-up items. I put an underscore before the W so that it puts that file right under the word inbox. I want it to be up top. If I don't put the underscore, it's going to put it all the way down under the W's because it automatically files things alphabetically. Then I set up a _ read file. I drag all the things I want to read, but I don't want to read them right now, but I don't want them to be in the big black hole of inbox. I put it in a read file and continue to process this until when you're done, you've gotten rid of all the clutter. You've delegated because you forwarded all the things you don't need. You've put all the things you need to take action on in the waiting to respond file. You've taken all the emails that you need to read and put them in the read file. All the people / subject emails that you need to save go in those files. And before you know it, guys, you're down to just what's coming in. And you're going to start doing this as it comes in. So that's action step number 3. Okay, so these are your 3 simple secrets for unleashing your productivity potential. Number 1, declutter your life. Number 2, get control of your daily workload. And number 3, declutter your e-clutter. Now, I've done purposely, I just want you to know that here is where you find the handout for this, which has the declutter your workspace and the action step, number 1, the get control of your daily workload and the action step, number 2. Where you can actually get your free downloads is on this handout. Then number 3, declutter your e-clutter, and action step number 3, and my email address. So I want you guys to go to wendyellen.com/DMS for discount medical supplies -handout. wendyellen.com/DMS-handout is where you can get the handout for this webinar. And John Siegel is kind enough to post this. As soon as this webinar is over, I will get these to him, and he will make them accessible on his website as well. So that is the content, and I'm leaving enough time open for questions. For anybody that has specific questions about something, I'd like to help you right here and now.